All right, welcome back to the Closing Time podcast with David Mansour, and we have a wonderful special guest,
Thank you. My name is Carolina Bellino.
Caroline Abellino. Did I say that right?
I think so. We can
Awesome.
work
Well,
with
we
that.
are here. We met at the FIFA World Cup, the
Club.
World Cup. We are volunteers. But we have an amazing story that we're going to hear Miss Carolina tell us
Correct.
about. So,
How did this start? Because we were talking, and then he started talking Spanish to me, and he said "sí," which means yes. And I told him, you know what? That's how our lives were spared. And he was like, tell me about it. And I told him that 14 years ago, on August 16, 2010, I was heading to an island in Colombia, San Andres. I was on a Boeing 737. I left from Atlanta like 3 days before, so I had taken several planes. I was very tired. And that day, the airlines normally want people on the exit rows to speak the language for to the country they're going. And my husband is American; he doesn't speak
and
Spanish.
you were going
I
to,
was going to San Andres Island, which is below
Okay.
Cayman Islands. If you look at the maps right now, we were going from Bogota, which is the capital of Colombia, to the island. And my husband, they asked us if we were ready to or willing to help if there was an emergency. And I told him to say "sí" in Spanish and not say "yes," so that way they would not move us from that seat. And
because they ask if you speak the language, they want you to be proficient at
Correct.
least, not just
Correct.
respond. So
So we
you
can
said
help
just say C
say "sí."
so that they don't ask you any more questions.
Correct, and they won't move us because they had moved us on the other three planes that we had taken already. They had moved. Oh, you don't speak Spanish, so you need to move. And this time we stay there. And the reason this came about is because we were talking about the plane crash in India and how this person that survived was sitting at the exit, the emergency exit. So we stay on that row, and
He finally said C. He finally
he
listened to
said
you
sí.
because y'all had been moved 3 times before, and he
Yes.
finally listened.
Remember that he needed to speak Spanish in
finally
that
remembered
moment.
and said "sí."
Just that syllable, we needed it because we wanted the leg burn.
Yeah.
So we know we're on the plane, and I went to sleep. I was very tired. I remember there was a storm, but I didn't think much of it. I felt like I was safe, and they always say, when you travel by plane, it's the safest way to travel. And I was like, okay, I should not worry. I went back to sleep. The next thing I remember is feeling hot. And I was like, why? That's what my brain asked. Like, I was cold in the plane, and I hear somebody calling my name, Carolina, Carolina. I took my seatbelt off. I didn't know what was going on, and I went to the emergency exit that was already open. And at that moment, I don't know what's happening. You know when you wake up in the middle of the night and you don't know if you're asleep or awake, you just kind of like going, that's how I felt. And then it seemed like somebody pushed me and I rolled on the wing of the plane.
That's your first conscious
That's
memory
that's what's
is
happening. Yeah.
being pushed out on the
Yes,
wing.
on the wing. And then at the end of the wing, my husband pulls me out. And and that's when I see him, and he said, let's go. And we start walking. But within 10 feet, he collapses and says, I can't walk anymore. Something's wrong. And, and I don't know what's happening. I mean, where am I? Am I dreaming? I mean, I didn't have no shoes on. It was just crazy. I could
Sleep with your shoes on the airplane. That's
I,
another
I,
lesson.
I could feel the asphalt, and it cuts when you walk on it with no shoes. And that's the moment I turn around and I see the plane broken in three pieces. There was some fire. This was 1:45 a.m. in the morning, so the runways don't have no light. I mean, they don't have light really. They're dark, and all I could see was fires here and there. And I look back and I see the plane in three pieces. Like my brain just, I guess, did some math, and he said to me, "You're gonna die." And the reason for that is because I was covered in fuel. When I went on that wing, I think I got myself covered in fuel. I smelled the jet fuel. I saw the fires, and I saw the plane in three pieces. And that's when my brain said, that's it. You're dying." And I look at my husband and say, "If you don't get up, we're gonna die." So at that moment, he couldn't move, and he just started thinking, "Okay, roll me." So I tried to roll him, and I can't. He was too heavy, and he was in pain. Then he said, "Pull me." I tried to pull him. I couldn't pull him. And then at the end, he just said, "You know what? Go save yourself. Leave me here." That moment was tough.
Yeah.
I was like, "No, I'm
So was
not
something
leaving."
laying on him? Because I think you said what happened was his legs were broke, his
No, he
spine.
broke his vertebrae T12.
Okay.
He
So
broke.
he just couldn't feel.
Yeah, he felt. He said later that he felt like a 2,000-pound donut was on him,
On him, okay.
and he just couldn't move. So he just said, "Save yourself," and I'm like, "No."
No, I don't want
I,
that trauma.
well, in that moment, it's like, I'm not leaving you. Is that I think your mama bear, or I don't know
Yeah.
what kicks in. You're like, I'm not leaving you. So I'm trying to find solutions to my problem, but I don't have any. You know how in the movies, like the bomb goes off and the person in the movie can't hear anything, and it's
Yeah.
just him and whatever is around him, but he can really comprehend what's. That's how I felt. And in that moment, I couldn't remember or really say a formal prayer or not, but all I could say was, "Jesus, just help me, Jesus." That's all I could come to my mind. And in that moment, I see this gentleman coming in to me. He had a radio on his side, so I figured he's rescue. But it was dark. I couldn't see anything. It was only some fire that could give me a little bit of clarity. And I saw on his shirt, I read it. I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. That moment,
That's awesome.
I was like, I'm not gonna die. So
Yeah.
whatever my brain had said, it was reversed. I'm not dying. And in that moment, my ears popped, and
Then
I
you could
heard,
hear.
yeah, I could hear people asking for help. The rescue is coming. The ambulance coming.
So that what was that like? You don't seem to have a lot of traumatic response talking about it or anything like that. So that's awesome. You've clearly dealt with this.
Yes.
But what, like the screaming, like we all picture that everyone around you would just be screaming, and the trauma from the screaming, I think, would be bad.
Yes.
But I don't know. What was that? What was that like? If you
I mean, to be honest, I just wanted to get out of there
to
alive.
survive?
Yes, I wanted to survive because in that moment, my husband reminded me I was 6 weeks pregnant. When he said that to me, I've forgotten. I mean, I've forgotten I was pregnant, and I'm like, I need
So
to get
your
out of here.
baby's been in a plane crash.
Yes,
That's like a true truth and a lie.
yes, it
They
is.
got one. That's a good one.
He has a testimony, and so I was just like, okay, I need to get out of here. And I'm thinking, so at that island, the reason we were going to the island is because I'm Colombian. That's an island territory of Colombia, and my family lives there, so I have a home there. And we were fixing the roof, so I have a truck, and I just think, okay, if I can get the truck here, I can get my husband to the hospital.
That's right, because you were saying there just weren't enough ambulances or something.
Yeah, there
and
was only
there were
one
taxis,
ambulance.
Yeah, and there were taxis taking
Yes.
people to hospitals.
One
and-
ambulance in the whole island, and the taxis that were waiting for the passengers came in from the back door to take the injured people to the hospital, to the only two hospitals that we have. So in the island. So I was just thinking solutions. I just need to get out of here. So I really didn't kind of concentrated or put my attention on the people calling for help. Like you're
Right.
saying, all the screaming. I didn't hear it. It was just my brain saying, "Get out of here."
Yeah.
Like I was in the mode.
Just
I'm
go.
gonna
Fight or
survive. Yeah.
flight.
Yes. Correct.
No
And in
pun
fact,
intended.
I broke my back too.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I didn't feel it. I was
Adrenaline.
functioning.
Wow.
Yeah, the adrenaline got me to the hospital. I got to the hospital, and the nurse got me out. It was a police a police van that came in, a Renault, and they put my husband on a stretcher. He was on there. I was in the front, and the policeman get me to the hospital. When I got there, the nurse took me out of the van, and she would not let me go. And I was like, I thought maybe I don't have an eye or something, like something's in my that she would not let me go. And I saw all these people. Now that's when I saw the desperation when I went into the hospital, the people bleeding
Everywhere.
because all the debris from I don't know when the plane broke, because the plane broke into pieces. I haven't told you what happened. Later we found out this airplane was
Yeah, why
coming
did
in.
it crash?
Yeah, we're coming in, and everything is okay. Nobody told us brace for impact. I was asleep. And I remember the flight attendant going back, seeing her legs, say, "Everybody put your trays up and your chairs up. We're going to land." The next thing I remember is what I told you, that the boys woke me up and I felt hot. So what happened is he came in the wrong angle. So he thought he was putting his wheels on the runway, but he put them on a dirt bank just before the runway, which it made the plane broke in three pieces. Now, you've heard in like what we see with the Indian
Yeah, it's interesting.
jetliner, that one blew up. So our plane didn't blow up.
And that's why they
And that
call
is
it the
the miracle.
miracle of
The
Colombia.
miracle flight, because we were 131 souls on board, only 2 people died. And the reason we didn't blow up, remember, I was covering fuel.
Yeah.
I, I should not be here, Dave,
No.
talking to you or talking to your audience. Uh, the miracle itself is when he break the plane and break the wheels, he left the engines on that sand as well. So we slid, I don't know, 300, 400 feet or more yards, and the engines were not with us.
Wow.
So that is the
So
miracle
why
here.
don't they make airplanes with detachable engines now?
I guess, yeah, I
Fix
guess.
this
No,
problem, but-
yes, you're right. That could work. So I think that that is what saved us. And what I was going with that is that when we got to the hospital, all that debris, because the plane did break in 3 pieces, cut people's faces or limbs, and they were bleeding. And I was like, I'm not, that I know I'm not bleeding. But the lady would not let me go. So I told her, please leave me here, go help somebody else. So I sat there and I tried to call my family. My phone broke. I didn't have no shoes. So I was telling Dave, if you fly, just always wear tennis shoes. Because your
Keep 'em on your
flip-flops,
feet.
yeah, because your flip-flops will go somewhere. And I tried to call my family. I was able to get an uncle, and they knew what the whole island heard the plane crash. It's a small island, and my uncle said, "Are you alive?" I know I'm calling, but in the moment, and I said, "Yeah, I'm alive. Everybody's alive." Because we had other 2 friends from Columbus, Georgia, that had come. Yes, that were in seat 3. The plane broke in between us. I was in seat 14, where the emergency exit is, and they came around. Actually, in the runway, they found me.
Right.
But I sent them with a taxi, and then I got there, and that was the first time that I saw my son, because they did an ultrasound, and I was
he was
able to
still
see.
alive?
Yeah, and
Oh, that's
his little
awesome.
heart was beating.
What's he doing like this?
Yes, I bet he was. And that's when that night was a tough night. They told us I had a T12, a broken T12. My
Tough to
husband as
give
well.
birth with a broken back, I
Yes,
imagine.
yes. They didn't want to do X-rays on me. I had to fight them because I said, "Look, God already saved him from the plane crash, so
Yeah.
He will save him from the X-rays. Just tell me what I have." Because when I got to the hospital, that's when I collapsed. I couldn't walk anymore.
That's when you're done.
Yes, that's when I couldn't walk anymore.
Okay, so dumb questions. Did you get your luggage back?
I
Like, did they
did.
go through all
I
the
did.
stuff and the
And
wreckage and like?
funny
That
story.
was my
My
watch.
husband, we were going to our home there, and he was gonna do taxes in Colombia because that was August. Taxes were due October.
Because y'all own your own business, so this
Yes,
you
and
did
he
at the
and
time
he said,
too?
"Okay, we're gonna go have our vacation, but I'm gonna do taxes." So he brought everything
Oh,
with him. So we did recover everything.
wow.
It smelled like jet fuel. I had to throw away the suitcases and
Yeah.
most of the clothes. But when we got to, okay, so the island has 2 hospitals, but they have only primary care. If you get something very serious,
They
they
send
fly
you out.
you, to the capital. So the next day on an Air Force plane, I felt like the soldiers feel when they take him out of the war zone, and I was
yeah.
laying down because I had a broken back. They took us to Colombia, to the mainland, to Bogota. So we were there, and the embassy of the United States was there. They sent a physician to receive us.
Wow.
And he was there. He said, "What can I help you?" And they were there checking on us every day. And one of the requests my husband made was like, "Can you give me a letter so I can send to the IRS that I was on a plane
I need
crash?"
an extension, please.
Yes, because I'm not going to be able to file my taxes in October. So yes, so we did get
Wow.
everything. He got all his paperwork back.
That's awesome. So, do you hold that over your husband's head a little bit? Like,
No.
remember that time I saved your life? Go do the dishes.
No, I don't. I remember that this was a miracle. We're meant to be here, and my son, meant to come to this world. Actually, we named him Ethan Andrew. Andrew because of the island, San Andrew. San Andres means San Andrews. And then Ethan, I just bought the baby book and I picked the list of handsome boys' names and I picked that one. But then I realized that it means strong will.
Ah,
And Andrew means brave. And it's a great combination because while I was in the hospital getting my surgery and all that, the doctor said, I think you're going to have a miscarriage today because you have a blood clot on top of
Yeah.
your son. And we prayed that he will stay there, and he stayed there. And my
How old
pregnancy
is he
was great.
now?
He's
He's 15,
14. He's
14.
14.
Is he
And
tough?
yes, and the plane crash happened on August 16, 2010. He was supposed to be born April 7. That was my due date.
Yeah.
He actually was born April 16. So it's just 8 months right after the plane crash, 2011. So it's
Wow.
like God saying, hey, I saved you from that.
That's an awesome story.
Yes.
Are any fear flying now, or
I had
just
to
you're
fly
just
the next day.
conscious?
The next day, they put us on a
Yeah, but
plane.
you didn't have a choice. You were.
I didn't have a
I mean,
choice.
now you walk up and you. Is there panic? Is there you got to have 6 shots of liquor to get on the
No,
plane?
I don't. No, I
You
don't
just-
need that. It's only happens when I'm about to land and the plane moves.
Is that why all Latin people are like
No,
when the plane lands?
that is actually something of my culture. I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yes.
When I was flying in Colombia, when I was a girl, we always clap when the
Yeah.
plane lands.
Ay, Dios mío,
But yeah, I don't have any. Well, the only way to go to this island it's
Yeah.
by plane. So and
That's
my
awesome.
home is there. So
Well, thank you for sharing. I don't want to cut it short, but we are volunteering.
yes, and we
got to
gotta
be back
go-
at our station.
Yes, we gotta
So
do
we're
that.
going to cut it here. Thank y'all very much. I
Thank you for
appreciate it.
inviting me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.